Welcome. Today we're going to assemble the VAL-CO flat chain feed system. The system we're going to put together is 5 foot wide. Your system could vary from that depending on what you're doing and your design. To do the layout, a couple things to consider is to keep your bins somewhere in the vicinity of the incoming lines, close to your outside bins. When you locate your drive bin and your auxiliary bin, you want to keep those in equidistance apart within the system so that as your feed's going through, you distribute that evenly throughout the system. Today we're going to talk about installing the corners, joining the troughs together with the unions. We're going to talk about installing the troughs into the bins and the auxiliary bin. We'll put the chain in, put the grills on, and we'll talk about winching. Next, we're going to slide our trough pieces into the corners. So these just slip right in, all the way up against on both ends. And what holds these together when it's all said and done is the chain being tensioned, so that's all that holds it together. Okay, we're going to put the trough section together with a coupler. Important to note is there is a notch in here that the trough piece will have to go underneath on 2 sides. So we'll slide it together. And sometimes you have to just tap them in, and you can see that you're up against these notches, so you are solid. If in fact you need to tap it, I recommend putting a block against it so that you don't damage the coupler ends, because you do have to put another piece in this side. And then to slide the other side in, it's the exact same thing. You'll slide it into the coupler, make sure that it's fully seated and goes in against the notches and underneath these tabs. Okay, as you're putting your trough together, you may want to put a trough clean out hole in the piece that goes just before the drive bin. The drive bin is just before as viewed in the direction that the chain is traveling. So it'll be a 2 3/4 inch hole, and then we have a trough clean out cover that goes over top of that and is just held in place with thumb screws. You'll run with the cover on unless you're cleaning out before the system starts or in between flocks. Okay, next we're going to install the trough into the auxiliary bin. The process is the same for the drive unit as well. So we have to slip the trough in underneath the chain guide. So to do that, you need to gain access. We'll pull the hairpin clip and the shaft out of the remix wheel. And then you're going to have your hardware loosened here for your chain guide. You're going to slip the trough underneath and retighten the hardware. And when you've got that in all the way, you're just going to slip your remix wheel back in. And put your clip back in. When you receive your feeder chain, it's going to be in a strapped box with 2 of these chains per assembly. So you'll cut the bands, you take the paper off, and before you go too far, you want to smack this. This is just put together when the paint's still wet, so it's all stuck together. So you're just going to go around and break the paint. Then there's a wire that holds it together. You'll untie that wire, and then we'll lay it out on the floor. Okay, so when you lay your chain out on the floor, you want to lay it out in the same way that it's going to go into the trough. So the link connector split is going to be on the bottom, and you want the drive sprocket to be driving on the back of the link, not on the end that is open. So it'll be on the closed end. So in this case, we're going to be feeding in this direction. The sprocket's going to drive this way against these links. So the drive sprocket is actually underneath the motor, but for visual purposes, we'll look at it here. The chain is going to drive from your feed bend out this direction away from your motor. And the sprocket, as I said before, is going to hit the solid side of the chain link as it goes through the system. So when you're putting the chain in, you're going to have to put several sections together. You're going to want the chain splitter that you can get through the VAL-CO parts system. To put these together, you're going to slide you can see there's a longer V here. You're going to slide this chain in this way so that it bottoms out, and then we're going to slip this one into this open side of the link, and we're going to start with it at an angle so that you're hitting straight down. And that it should be joined together, and you'll join each of your chains together that way. The next step is going to be to actually tension the chain in the system and put it together on the trough. Okay, so after you have all your sections of chain in, you're probably going to have to take a couple links out before you connect everything together. In our case, we're just taking 4 links out. So you're going to place the chain into the chain breaker. You're going to drive this link out through this split, and we're going to just drive it out that way. Okay, a little bit of detail on how to set your chain length. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a ratchet strap on and tension the chain to get all the slack out. So just using a regular ratchet strap, we'll hook it in. Pull that tight. So you're going to have tension the whole way through your system with the ratchet strap on, and then you're just going to slowly release the tension to let the slack out and make this in the neutral position. So just ease off on your ratchet strap so it doesn't snap back. And now that you have this tight, what you're going to do is go to your chart in the manual, and you're going to look at, for the length of your chain, so if you have a 200-foot loop, it would be 400 feet of chain. You're going to use your chart to see how big the gap is that you want before you connect your links. So if you want, for 100 foot, you want 3 inches of gap, you're probably going to take out 2 sections of chain and then put it back together. After you have taken out the proper amount of gap, you'll just ratchet strap it back together again. Use your chain breaker tool and clip that back together and slide it back into your trough. After you've installed your chain and you've stretched it with the ratchet strap, I've already pulled the extra links out. Now I just have to put this back together again before I release the ratchet strap. Just make sure again that your open link side is is the same way, so you don't have a twisted chain when you're done. And then we'll just pop this back in. It's almost there. This way, Mike. After you've installed a new chain, you want to monitor it pretty closely until it's thoroughly broken in. As the chain starts to break in, it's going to wear off all the paint. That's going to allow it to stretch as well as just general break-in. You're going to want to monitor for caterpillaring on the exit of the drive hopper. So if it's bunching up, caterpillaring, you're going to want to take a couple links out. You want to do that and monitor it until it's fully broke in, so to the point where you don't see a need to change it for a week or two at a time. The break-in time is going to change based on your feed and how often you're running your system. But a well-maintained system will last a long time and won't do any damage as it's rotating through because it's tight. Okay, when we assemble the trough, in some cases you're going to have to trim some of the troughs a little bit shorter. If you look at the drive bin with the motor versus our auxiliary auxiliary bin over here, you can see that this one is a bit shorter than the other one. So you're going to have to trim this off. When you trim it, you're going to have to trim it very square in both directions, square this way and square this way, so that you can slide it into the clamp. When you slide this in, you're going to slide it underneath the wear bar and clamp it down. And then you're going to measure the gap between the sprocket and the trough and make sure you have the specified gap per the manual. The next step is to put the belt drive together. We're going to slip the pulley onto the motor shaft. Don't forget to put the square key into the shaft. Once you have this on, you can align the face of the motor pulley with the face of the gearbox pulley and snug both of the set screws and then slip your belts on. After you've locked the pulley in place and it's aligned, then you're going to use the tensioner bolt to tension your belts. You want to make sure your belts are snug enough that they don't slip, but you don't want to over tighten these belts because it could impact the life of the motor or the gearbox if you pull too hard. After the feed chain's in, we're going to install the drive pin. So to do that, you're going to line up one of the drive pin holes in the sprocket with the drive plate that's behind here that comes off the motor drive. I've already done that, so you can just slide the pin in, and then behind here on the drive plate is a set screw. You want to tighten that down to hold the drive pin in place. Okay, it's important to follow your manual to wire the motor. In case of wiring the wrong way, it could cause damage to the motor. There is a wiring diagram on the back side. This motor can be wired as a 115 or a 230 volt. Be sure to assemble the guards to protect the belt from getting hands and feet inside. That just slips down onto these two nuts, and then you snug these up. Just watch here at the drive pulley. Make sure that just in case this get deformed in shipping or something like that, make sure you have clearance around here so that when it spins it doesn't rub. Okay, when you begin to lay out your winching system, keep in mind that the system with the end plate is 60 inches from outside to outside. For the ends of your home run line, keep in mind that they're going to be a little bit narrower than the runs down the troughs. These are going to be 48 inches wide at the corners, and that's because the corner brackets come in a little bit from the ends. Okay, now we're going to snap the grills into place. There is a little bit of a method to make that a little easier for you, so I'll show you how to do that. In order to snap these into place, you want to start by putting this lower wire into the trough lip over on this side, and then I place my hands about a foot apart on the end, and I just compress it and get the ends started, and then I start working my way down and clipping these in until I get the whole way down. Okay, when you're cutting your grills and you're putting them on the corners, one of the things you want to pay attention to is the pieces of wire that stick out. These are scratch points for the birds. So typically a guy will cut these off. So when you're done, it'll look nice and smooth. Maybe file the ends just a little bit, take the burrs off, and then put your end caps on like such. When you get to the ends next to the bins, you want to keep that fairly close to the bin side to keep birds from getting themselves inside there. The bin hopper extensions come in a flat box. Inside the box is the 4 side panels and the top and the mounting brackets. One hardware kit and one instruction. To assemble the bin hopper extensions, I like to do it on a flat surface. And in this case, I'll stand these up and get it started. We have 1032 hardware that goes inside of this the whole way down. I like to use some work gloves because the edges of the sheet metal can be sharp. And I just get everything finger tight as I go around and put this together. And then everything self-aligns on the flat surface that I'm working on. Then I can tighten them all up at the end. Okay. Next we're going to put together the top panel. Top panel is these 4 panels bolted together. I set them up as I'm going to put it together with the legs facing up, and this will be the part that goes over the top of the bin, so they'll face down. And then we just assemble these bolts and work our way around. Again, I typically put these together finger tight, and then at the end they self-align and you can tighten them up. I'm using this flat surface again so that this thing will come together fairly flat after I tighten the bolts up. In order to attach the hopper extensions, we have attachment angles. These get attached to the bin. The eye bolts that go to the winching system go through here. So we'll just slip these in through here. And there's 2 brackets. They can only go on one way. After you have the attachment brackets on, you can set the bin extension up. So we're going to attach the bin extension to the connector angle and just take the thumb screw and the washer and screw that in on 2 sides. Okay, next we're going to put the mounting bracket in for the feed limit switch. That has carriage bolts. And it's angled, so you want to set the wide angle at the top so you can slip that right in. And Set that into pre-drilled holes. I'm using a lock nut and a lock washer and a lock nut. I'll put this on. Okay, for the limit switch for the bin hopper extension, the limit switch sensitivity is already set at the factory, but if you do need to adjust it, you just need to take the Phillips head screw out of the cover at the top, remove this cover, and then this lock nut will change the spring tension. If you turn it clockwise, it decreases the sensitivity of the switch, and if you turn it counterclockwise, it increases the sensitivity. When you're finished, you just put the cover right back on. I would go in small increments. A little change in that spring length makes a pretty big difference, so you may have to adjust a couple times till you get it to where you want the bin levels. To install your limit switch, you're just going to drop it onto the bracket that we installed, just like so. Okay, then we're going to put the bin cover on. We're just going to make sure we run our wires through here and drop that right on top. Your feed will come in through the cover top, and you should be set. Okay, when you lay out your winching system with the pulleys above, your system's going to be 5 feet apart, so your outside pulleys are going to be 5 feet apart. The inside pulleys that lift up your bins are 14.5 inches apart, so to get a nice straight pull, you'll make those pulleys 14.5 inches apart. You'll run your home run line down to the end. As we stated earlier, these pulleys are going to be 48 inches apart so that they hang straight above the corners like we talked about earlier. And then your pulleys down to the trough. When you put these on, you want to put them alternate. If you have a long system, I only have one in this short system for demo. You would put these 3 inches alternating on each side of the home run line. So this one would be 3 inches on this side. The next one, if I had one, would be on this side, and we'd alternate going down through the home run line. That'll keep your home run line straight. Okay, when you clamp your pull cables to the home run line, you want to keep your clamps at least 6 inches from the pulleys when you're all the way on the ground. This one's raised slightly. The trough hangers, they just clip into the connector plates that we already assembled when we put the troughs together, so they just hook right in. You put your wire and cabling through there and then up to the home run line. For hanging the troughs, we have several different options. One of the options is the new Jhanger, part number 411036. The new Jhanger is open on the end to make maintenance and cleaning a lot easier. That'll just hook right in and you can support it right at the connection. Hangers for each of the corners are a simple hook in each side. There's a hole where these hooks go through. Other options, you can put a stand on that holds it just off the ground using these angles and connectors. And on your lift cables, you want to double up on your clamps since you're lifting a fairly heavy load.